Welcome to the Astrology Show with your host, Kelly Fox. Each week, Kelly will give you access to the current transits that are a valuable tool which provide astrological information to help unlock the potential each of us has through our sun sign. Understanding the current planetary influences each week can help steer us in the right direction to make better informed choices. Sometimes events in your life may seem completely random, but there is a pattern to the order of these events, one set in motion in part by you and in part by the planets and stars in the sky and their influence on your life here on Earth. So if you're wondering what's going to happen in your week ahead, if you're going to get that promotion, move to a new city, or fall in love, tune in to the Astrology Show for guidance. It can help you anticipate problems before they occur, give you tools to cope with changes, and help you look forward to the wonderful days ahead. Kelly Fox is a professional astrologer and internet pioneer who launched astrology.com, one of the first and most successful astrology websites. Today, her passion lies with her new site, theastrologer.com, where she brings a modern-day approach to an ancient wisdom. Please join Kelly each week to learn more about how the planets can align for you.
Hi there, and welcome to the Astrology Show. I'm your host and astrologer, Kelly Fox, talking about the planets this week. The headline of the week is a new moon in Leo, and we also have communication planet Mercury moving into Virgo. Now, it's not just moving into Virgo, it's the very start of, yeah, you guessed it, the retrograde cycle. Mercury retrograde is not happening until August 12th, and it retrogrades in Virgo. It's one of its signs that it favors. So tomorrow on Tuesday, Mercury will move into Virgo, which is the start of the retrograde cycle, just building up into eclipse season. So August promises to be an interesting month, let's just say. A month full of intensity, and I will talk next week's show and the one after that all about the eclipses and the retrograde. So the headline of the week is New Moon in Leo, and it's the last new moon before we have the solar eclipse on August 21st. It's not a date I forgot. I was just thinking ahead here because I'm just looking in my calendar here, and the new moon that we had on Sunday was at nearly 1 degree Leo, and then the solar eclipse new moon will also be in Leo. So that's pretty unusual to have a new moon in the same sign, one after the other. Very interesting, and I will talk about that in tonight's show. But first of all, be sure to check your daily, weekly, and monthly horoscope on the OMTimes website. There is a horoscope there for all the signs at any time you want. It's going to be important to check your horoscope as we build up to the eclipses and into August when we have Mercury retrograde coming up. Also, usually each week on the show, I talk about the planets and the planetary influences of the week. And to really follow along, you can get your free chart wheel, and then you will know where the planets were at the time you were born. And you can just go to theastrologer.com/chartwheel to get your free chart wheel. It will make it a whole lot easier as I talk about the planetary influences each week. And sometimes you might have that particular planetary influence that I refer to each time. So it's always good to know where the planets were at the time of your birth. For example, the headline of the week, we have a new moon in Leo, which is nearly 1 degree Leo. So if you have anything in Leo in your chart, you will know that this new moon that we are still under the influence of is a great time for new beginnings. And so then you can narrow that down into what area of your life is it good for new beginnings or starting afresh or for something new, and so on. So, of course, with the Mercury retrograde, later on in the show, I'm going to be covering how this Mercury retrograde coming up, or even Mercury moving into one of its own signs of Virgo, how that will be affecting you. And if you have any planets in Virgo, you will know that that influence will be affected by this retrograde. So it's always handy to have the chart wheel there so you can follow along. Anyway, so back to the new moon in Leo. So each month we have a new moon, and we have a brand new cycle starting every month at the new moon. So every 28 days we have a new moon. And each month it changes sign, although this is an unusual period because of the eclipses. And because this new moon is 0 degrees 44 minutes of arc of Leo, that's why we have the next new moon in August, which just happens to be a total solar eclipse, is also in Leo, but at the very last degree of Leo. So it's pretty unusual. If you've heard of the term "what's in a blue moon," that usually that refers to the second full moon in a calendar month. This isn't quite that. It's not in the same calendar month and it's not a full moon, but it's the same sort of effect. It's an unusual occurrence, in other words. And it just happens to be a solar eclipse at the very last degree of Leo. This is next month. It's a total solar eclipse, and it's in effect across the USA. If you tuned into last week's show, you will remember that I mentioned something like the last time the USA had a total solar eclipse was the early 70s, the 1970s. It's been a long time coming. And a total solar eclipse in Leo across the USA, well, Leo is all about leadership. I don't think I should say any more about that, but each week I will be addressing that, and I'll be doing research in the weeks to come around that. Of course, what comes to mind is the political scene at the moment, because Leo is all about the spotlight and about leadership and authority. But the other thing about Leo is it's a fixed sign, and particularly with this new moon that we've just had, or that's influencing us this week, it is all about authority and leadership and the spotlight. But Leo as a fixed sign is all about long-term plans. So where are we going in the long term as a country with our leadership? So it's interesting with this eclipse season, we've just had this new moon in Leo. It's all sort of coming together. Now, the new moon is all about new beginnings. So this is a perfect opportunity for new starts and beginnings. And this is for everybody, but especially if you are a fire sign. And the fire signs are Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. And more so if you were born in the beginning, towards the beginning of the fire sign. So if you're a March-born Aries, if you're a July-born Leo, or if you are a November-born Sagittarian, this is a wonderful week to start something new. It's all about new beginnings. But of course, before you can have a new beginning, you need to have an ending. You need to make sure that something is finished before you start something new. So that's the rule of thumb for a new moon, according to astrologers. Now, the new moon you can't see in the night sky. The new moon If you, particularly on Sunday, if you looked up at the sky, it would be completely black. The moon has disappeared. So you can't see any moon when there's a new moon. But as the days progress, today, tomorrow, the next day, you'll start to see, when you look up in the sky at the moon, on the right-hand side, you'll start to see like this tiny little slither of white with the moon. And then in 2 weeks' time, we will have a full moon. So then you've got the different phases of the moon. And so this time next week, we will be having a first quarter moon. So you'll be able to see part of the moon. And then in 2 weeks' time, we will have a full moon, which will also be a lunar eclipse, which is actually it won't just be the headline of the week or the month. It's basically the headline of the year. Eclipses occur in 2s or 3s, typically twice a year. So it's always big news. And depending on where the eclipses or the lunations or even the ingresses, which means when a planet changes sign, it all depends on where that falls in your chart, which planets it affects, and how that affects you. So everybody's different. So it's more than just a sun sign, but a sun sign is a great place to start when you are a budding astrologist. An astrologist is somebody that has an interest in astrology, and an astrologer is a professional. So there is a difference there. So we are under the influence of a new moon in Leo for this month and again next month. So we are coming into eclipse season very soon. We're already starting to feel the effects. We are here late July, and we are ramping up to some intensity in August. On that note, we'll take a short break, so stay tuned.
Conscious media for conscious minds. OMTimes.
The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
Aloha, my name is Jennifer O'Neill, and I'd like to invite you to come join me every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Hawaii Standard Time for my show, Spirit Chat. Spirit Chat focuses on simplifying the process of using the spiritual tools and gifts you were born with in a way that fits into your everyday life. I also teach different techniques that will help you learn how to navigate the spirit realm and empower you on your own spiritual journey. So join me this Wednesday as I guide you through the spirit world.
Hi, this is John Ondrasik of Five for Fighting, here for RAD, the entertainment industry's voice for road safety. You know, style is a personal thing, and your lifestyle is your business. But if you take it on the road, it becomes everybody's business. So please, plan ahead, designate before you celebrate. Friends, don't let friends drive drunk.
A public service announcement brought to you by RAD, the National Association of Broadcasters, and the Ad Council.
Hi there, and welcome back to the Astrology Show. I'm your host and astrologer, Kelly Fox, talking about the planets this week as we build into August. I know we're not quite there yet. I feel like I am jumping ahead with good reason. I keep thinking about sort of not obsessing, but, you know, thinking a lot about the eclipses and the Mercury retrograde coming up. And we're already, this week is sort of starting the very beginning of the cycle of the eclipses and Mercury retrograde. So just before the break, I was talking about this influence of the new moon. So this week, we are under the influence of a new moon in Leo. And it's at the very, very first degree of Leo. It's basically, let me look at my calendar here. The new moon is basically 0 degrees 44 Leo. So it's within the first degree of Leo. So what that means is a new moon is all about new beginnings and new starts. And in Leo is all about the spotlight, leadership, authority, long-term planning because it's a fixed sign, taking action because it's a fire sign. So all things Leo. We also have, of course, the new moon is when the sun and moon line up, but we also have Mars in Leo. And I'm just looking to see my calendar here, and of course, we're just moving in Mercury, moving out of Leo and into Virgo. So it's interesting because we have another new moon solar eclipse next month in Leo as well, but at the very last degree. So it's really interesting. You've got this new moon at the first degree of Leo, which is all about new beginnings. And the first degree of any sign is all about newness. So there are 30 degrees to each sign. And the very beginning degrees or the very beginning days of a sign is very much that sign. So in other words, there's 30 degrees or there's 30 days to each sign, and astrologers divide signs into 3. So the first third part of a sign is the pure essence of a sign. So anybody born like the first 10 days of a sign is that pure energy of that sign, the characteristics of the sign. Then the next 10 days is still ruled by the sign, so say Leo, but then you take the next planetary ruler of the same element, which would be Sagittarius. The ruler of Sagittarius is Jupiter. And then the last third of Leo would be sub-ruled by Mars. Now, I'm getting ahead of myself here, but what I'm trying to say is this new moon in Leo is pure Leo. So it's everything Leo, and it's all around new beginnings and long-term plans because Leo is a fixed sign. Now, I'm just going to give you some keywords here about new beginnings to do with this Leo new moon. Now, it's important because we are coming into the eclipse season, and it'll be the next new moon will be the very last degree of Leo, which is sort of a contradiction because you have a solar eclipse next month, which is a supercharged new moon, so supercharged new beginnings. But then it's at the very end of the sign, which is all about endings. Now, I always say that new moons are about endings before you can have a beginning. But the other really interesting thing about next month's new moon solar eclipse is it's conjunct the royal star Regulus. So it's going to be really fascinating to see what's going to happen in our world starting from now through like the end of the cycle, which will be not exactly with next month's solar eclipse, because of course eclipses have an effect for weeks and months and days after. So but it will be supercharged, like ramping up now, supercharged at its peak at the end of next month. Now, keywords for Leo, because we're under the influence of this Leo new moon that we've just had. Of course, Mars in Leo as well. It's all about confidence and being outspoken and ambitious, and there's touches of aggression or being impulsive because Leo's a fire sign. Another keyword for Leo is superiority. Leos are known to be very generous and affectionate. quite faithful and persistent, and Leos actually make great organisers. So if there's some way that you've got a new project happening and it's to do with organisation or rallying the troops or speaking up for a cause, Leo's also very honourable, dignified, and as I keep emphasising, it's all about leadership. So this new moon in Leo that we're having this week is all about leadership and being courageous and fearless and even sacrificing in some ways, because the energy of Leo really likes to help the underdog. So it's being very devoted to a cause. There's a lot of dynamic energy with this Leo new moon and very commanding. Many of us will be determined with this influence. Now, of course, everything has a flip side. We can't all be Pollyanna. We have to look at the shadow of everything as well. So the flip side of this Leo new moon, and of course Mars in Leo, I'm just checking the degree here for Mars. Yes, Mars is involved with this new moon. Let me just look here at this degree, which makes it really potent because Mars is the planet of action, and I always say Mars is very testosterone. It's very masculine. It's very ambitious, and it's where our motivations lie with Mars. And so Mars is wrapped up with this new moon. So Mars is currently at 3 degrees Leo, and the new moon is within 1 degree Leo. So then you've got this whole energy of Mars thrown in with this new Leo new moon. It's very, we can expect changes to come quickly. Sometimes with Mars, the involvement of Mars and with a fire sign, many of us will be shooting from the hip. So even though Leo is a fixed sign, the energy of Mars is very quick, not spending time thinking about too many things here. So then we've also got the shadow side of all this Leo new moon, Mars in Leo, and of course Mercury is still in Leo. Mercury is a sign of communication in the mind. It is still in Leo until tomorrow. Okay, tomorrow 4:41 p.m. Pacific time. So we still do have Mercury in Leo. So we've got Sun, Moon, Mercury, Mars. That's a lot of Leo energy. And the flip side of that could be vanity. People might be conceited, domineering, overbearing. There's an arrogance to the shadow side of this type of energy. Maybe snobbish comes to mind. And dictatorial, dictator. Definitely with this type of energy. And many people out there might be a bit selfish and stubborn. So that's the flip side, the arrogance of this energy. And more so, it might be more bothersome for the other fixed signs, and that's Taurus, Scorpio, and Aquarius, because they'll be feeling like the negative shadow side of this energy. But the energy is good for the fire signs, and that's Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. But of course, it really does depend on where the planets are, where the planets were at the time of your birth, where they are in your birth chart. And that's why I'm always emphasizing, get a free birth chart from my website, theastrologer.com/chartwheel. And then it's really insightful to see where these planetary energies each week affect you, and what areas of your life do these energies fall into. Now, it's really interesting because there's so much Leo energy going on at the moment. So, as I've been saying, this new moon that we're under the influence of, which occurred on Sunday at 2:46 a.m. Pacific time, is all about new beginnings, but new beginnings for the long term, because Leo is a fixed sign, and fixed signs are all about the long term. They're not just like, what's the word? Not just like looking at something and then on to the next thing. They're definitely, it's all about long-term goals and long-term thinking, and particularly starting a new project. Now, as I said, on Tuesday, communication planet Mercury moves into Virgo, where it will be until August 31st. And this is an extra long transit due to the retrograde period on August 12th. Mercury will be turning retrograde in Virgo on August 12th at 12 degrees of Virgo. And it's going to be an interesting time as well, because Mercury rules Gemini and Virgo. So Mercury is strongly placed when it's in Virgo, but because it will be retrograde in its own sign, things could really get kerfuffled. So it's going to be, starting from this week, an interesting time period over the next couple of months, because we are at the very beginning of the eclipse cycles and the Mercury retrograde cycles. Because when Mercury is in Virgo, you know, that's really the keywords there are like keen, piercing intellect. Many of us will be able to zero in on required information. Anytime I see anybody that has Mercury in Virgo, I know that their mind is very strong, unless, of course, it's afflicted by some other planet forming a square or an opposition, even a quincunx, any sort of outer planet forming a hard aspect. It does dilute the potent energy of Mercury in Virgo, but overall it's a very strong placement. So we're going to take a short break. After the break, I will continue with this week's planet, so stay tuned.
The Real Conscious Connection. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Join Vibe Nation radio host, international psychic medium Carrie Turcotte, as she guides her listeners to rediscover themselves by accessing the keys of knowledge that already exist within. Each week's show is divinely orchestrated to intertwine with the universal energies, allowing the listeners to go deeper within. At the end of each show, Carrie will tap into the energies of the listeners and give a message from Spirit about the upcoming week. If you really want to get to know who you truly are, join Carrie each Monday at 3 p.m. on Vibe Nation Radio.
This is a test to find out if you know it all when it comes to children. Name one of the leading killers of U.S. children age 1 to 13. What's the best way to protect children in a car crash? At what age and size should a child start using a booster seat?
Don't assume you know it all when it comes to car seats for your child. Go to safercar.gov/the-right-seat and know for sure. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Hi there, welcome back to the Astrology Show. I'm your host and astrologer Kelly Fox, talking about the planets this week. The headline of the week, or the headlines of the week, we have the Leo new moon, and Mercury, communications planet Mercury, will be moving into Virgo until August 31st. It's an extra long cycle because just before the break I was talking about the dreaded Mercury retrograde. Back to the Leo new moon. Now, one thing I wanted to say about the Leo new moon, and with also Mercury just about to move out of Leo, but Mars currently in Leo as well, it's all about creativity. So if you're thinking of starting a long-term creative project, now is definitely the time to do it. So with this Leo new moon that we're under the influence of this week, it's like it sparks the imagination, lights up our minds. And it will give us quality time to nurture like any sort of divine creative gift that we might have. And creativity can mean anything, anything in any realm. It's not just painting and drawing, and it's really anything that's creative fits under the influence of this Leo new moon. You know, Leo is unsurpassed when it comes to artistic expression. Leo is definitely the sign of, one of the signs of creativity. So whatever we choose to focus on at this time under this influence, and of course, as I've been saying this whole show, next month at the end of August, we have a solar eclipse in Leo. So we're very much in the season of creativity and any sort of art form. And as I said, it's not just about painting and drawing or dance. Could be anything more practical. Children, Leo is the sign of children. So this is a great time to focus on your children or the inner child within. So even like making ourselves proud by what we can accomplish at this time. And as I've been saying, you know, Leo is all about the spotlight. It's all about taking credit and, you know, having people recognize us for our creativity and our talent. It's like being our own king or queen of the jungle. This is a time with this Leo new moon to let the ideas flow out of us. And because Leo is a fire sign, it's all about taking action. So make a list, because Mercury is moving into Virgo this week as well. But make a list, because Virgo loves making lists. So make a list of the steps necessary to manifest the ideas into a more tangible form. So it's like we want to take action, and with this Mercury in Virgo, even though it's the start of, not that it's turning retrograde now, but in a couple of weeks, Mercury will be retrograde, but it's sort of like it's helping us take the steps necessary to manifest our creative ideas into a more tangible form. And because Mercury is going to be retrograde soon, it's like maybe go back to the past, because anytime there's a planet retrograde, particularly Mercury, it's about reviewing something from the past, reviewing or redoing. Really, the rule of Mercury retrograde is anything that starts with RE. So review, redo, renew, renovate, restore, anything like that. So Mercury in Virgo is all about taking practical steps, you know, shaping something up, putting structure to it. The energy of the Leo new moon and Mars in Leo. Leo's a very good organizer and can get stuff done, but with the help there of Mercury, planet of the mind in Virgo, Virgo is very efficient and practical and analytical and scientific, and it knows very much how to take the detail and run with it, whereas the energy of Leo is more of a bigger vision. So when you've got the combination of Virgo and Leo now through next month, it's very much about being practical. Don't let the retrograde or the eclipses hold you back, even though I've been the voice of doom and gloom over those things that are coming up, but they're just so big and they're all happening at the same time. It's like as I've been talking about them for the past few weeks. But really, it's like now is the time to make big changes, and we do have the planets on our side. So I wanted to talk about what is the best use of Mercury for each of the signs, and Mercury in Virgo, but not just Mercury in Virgo, it's the Mercury in Virgo retrograde cycle. So if you're in Aries, the time is now to focus on health, diet and fitness and your daily routine. It's like if you haven't taken care of these things and looked at the detail, let something slide by with your health or diet and fitness, something may come back and you may have to redo something when Mercury is retrograde soon, throughout August. So if you're a Taurus, the Mercury retrograde is all about children, and any sort of romance and courtship. Might be a lover from the past reappears. Not good if you're not single, that's for sure. But you might hear from somebody from the past. If you're a Gemini, when Mercury is retrograde, which it will be in Virgo, for you, Gemini, it's a great time to focus on home, family, parents, ancestors. If you're looking to renovate or redecorate, that is a good time to do it. Now, people say, oh, don't start anything new with Mercury retrograde, which is overall a truth, but this is how to make the most of this planetary energy that has such a really bad rap. If you're a Cancer, good for you when Mercury is in Virgo, is focusing on the mind and the intellect and any sort of learning or communication, or even dealing with siblings and neighbours. Maybe you haven't spoken to the sibling or a neighbour for a while, or an ex-neighbour, and they might come back into your life. If you're a Leo, it's all about spending and saving money and your possessions and your attitudes toward money in general. If you're a Virgo, well, your ruling planet is moving into your sign. So this is all about yourself and your physical body and your appearance and your health and you as an individual. Others might be looking to you for your words of wisdom when Mercury is in Virgo. If you're a Libra, pay attention to your dreams and your subconscious mind. It's going to be really important. Messages might be coming through, and so it's good to channel. If you're a Scorpio, old friends and acquaintances may come back into your circle. Groups that you might have been a part of, online and offline, are suddenly back in your sphere. If you're a Sagittarius, this is all about career, status and achievements for you during August, and maybe something or a job that you had previously might come back, and you might be dealing with that while Mercury will be retrograde. If you are a Capricorn, it's all about publishing, overseas, anything to do with foreign places, dealing with legalities or any sort of higher education. If you're an Aquarian, when Mercury is in Virgo, for you it's about money, but taxes, inheritance, any sort of insurance you might be dealing with. And finally, if you are a Pisces, for you it's about speaking up in your relationship. The focus for you when Mercury is in Virgo is on marriage and partnership, business partnerships, agreements. And, of course, everybody knows when Mercury is retrograde, you do not sign any agreements if you possibly can avoid it. And so the retrograde period is August 12th through September 5th. So if you can avoid signing a contract during those few weeks, that will be a good thing. Or the way around that is it might be a renewal, so that's not too bad. You might find that you might have to renegotiate something while Mercury is retrograde. Now, I will be repeating this information next week's show and the show after, just to remind everybody how crucial it is to have your ducks in a row when Mercury is retrograde. Okay, so tomorrow Mercury moves into Virgo. It turns retrograde at 12 degrees Virgo on August 12th. It moves back into Leo August 31st. It turns direct at 28 degrees Leo on September 5th. And it moves back into Virgo on September 9th, and the cycle begins again. Now remember, Mercury rules Virgo, so this should be interesting during this retrograde period, especially for the mutable signs, Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. Now, remember, Mercury is all about communication. So there's all different types of communicators, and the way we communicate has a lot to do with Mercury. So it also rules our thought processes, our logic or lack thereof, and our intellectual ideas and the way we get those ideas across to the world. So when Mercury is in Virgo, which it will be for an extended period of time and all throughout August, so Virgo is known to be very prim and fastidious. So if you apply this to your mental processes or thought processes during the next 6 weeks, it's important that we pay attention to detail regardless if Mercury is retrograde or not. And Virgo is all about purity and perfectionism. So it's going to be important that we dot our I's and cross our T's when Mercury is in Virgo. Now, Virgo is a mutable earth sign. So it's about being flexible, but it's also about being practical. So if you can keep that in the back of your mind while Mercury is in Virgo, it will be much easier, particularly when it will be retrograde. Now, Mercury in Virgo, of course, it all depends on how it affects your personal birth chart, but many of us will have laser-like focus because, as I keep harping on, Virgo is all about the detail. So many of us might find that no detail will escape our attention, and we'll be able to sift and sort through information with really, really great efficiency to get to the essence of what matters. So many of us will have enhanced powers of analysis and discrimination. And, you know, some of us might have a tendency to be critical more than usual, or even to get hung up on the details and lose sight of the big picture. On that note, we're going to take a short break, so stay tuned.
Feed your soul with waves of consciousness on OMTimes Radio. OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Tune in to the Practical Intuitive, Mind, Body, Spirit for the Real World with me, host Robin Fritz, Mondays at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 Eastern. I'll cover personal and business intuition, animal communication, mediumship, space clearing, past life regression, shamanic insights, energy healing, soul choice, and more, all to help you tap your own intuitive and healing skills. No ifs, ands, or buts.
Welcome back to the Dog Show. Up next, we have Satchmo. Satchmo is a member of the Shelter Pet Group.
That's right, a group known especially for their couch-snuggling, ball-chasing, face-licking, and, of course, companionship. Now, let's see him in action. Look how he makes eye contact with his person. That's actually known as the treat stare.
How intuitive, and now he appears to be excitedly turning in circles.
Ah, the happy dance so common with this group.
But really, the best way to know an amazing shelter pet like Satchmo is to meet one.
Visit theshelterpetproject.org today. Adopt.
Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
Hi there, welcome back to the Astrology Show. I'm your host and astrologer, Kelly Fox, talking about Mercury in Virgo. It's an extra long cycle because of the retrograde. Just before the break, I was talking about how paying attention to the details will really make a huge difference. So Virgo is all about efficiency, and it gets to the essence of what really matters. It's all about analytics and discrimination. I don't mean discrimination against other people. I just mean generally it can tell what's what, if that makes any sense. It's also a good time for academic research that require logic, precision, attention to detail. It's also an ideal transit for editing and any kind of refining or perfecting a process. Planning, because of the influence of Leo that we have, and then with Mercury in Virgo, planning skills for many of us will be really strong. And particularly with Mercury in Virgo, we're able to break down complex tasks into small, manageable steps. Also, with Mercury in Virgo, we won't have a lot of patience for any sort of like frivolous conversations or small talk. Many of us want to get like straight to the point because there's no fluffing around when Mercury's in Virgo, especially with part of this retrograde cycle. So we'll be taking time to choose our words carefully, have direct speech, we'll be efficient, precise, but we've got to be careful not to have too much of a sharp tongue with our truthful observations, just put it that way. Anyway, so it's all about perfectionism, so be careful not to get bogged down with having something be too perfect. We should know when good enough is good enough. All right, so other planetary influences this week. We don't have that many, but the big news, the headline of the week was the new moon in Leo, and then, of course, Mercury moving into one of its signs of Virgo. And then, of course, it being the start of this whole retrograde cycle. So the other planetary influences this week, today, we've got Venus opposite Saturn. Oh, that's a real Debbie Downer, that one. Venus is the planet of love, forming an opposition, which means they're standing opposed to Saturn. Now, Saturn is the planet that has the worst reputation, and rightly so. Saturn is a planet of karma, restriction, obligation, duty. So this week, especially today, you know, if there's been issues in your relationship, you can blame it on Venus opposing Saturn. Venus is currently in Gemini and Saturn is in Sagittarius. This influence will be tricky if you are a mutable sign, especially towards the end of your sign. And the mutable signs are Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. So, you know, like negotiations might be tricky. Difficult choices might need to be made under this influence of Venus opposite Saturn. But we can find a compromise, especially because Venus in Gemini is very clever. It's a duality, sort of a dual, flexible influence. But really, with Venus opposing Saturn, everyone has to give up something. But we get something in return because Saturn, even though it takes things away, it actually rewards us as well. So duties and obligations preclude social activities right now when Venus opposes Saturn. You know, some of us might have to be working back late this week. And, you know, if somebody gives us, like our boss, the honest appraisal of our work, we should really take note. Don't take it as a criticism, but really, you know, take it as constructive criticism, I guess is a better way to say it. Also, money might feel tight for many of us at this time under this influence, and most of us can survive on less than usual, and that's what I call like a Spartan existence. And, you know, we might even be amazed at how little a person really needs to get by. But it's only a temporary basis because Venus is an inner planet and any inner planet transits don't last too long, thankfully. And it's the one way of looking at it is to, let's just call it self-discipline. So let's not feel sorry for ourselves when Venus opposes Saturn this week. We just need to pick ourselves up by the bootstraps and get moving and know that this energy will pass soon. Also today, yes, on my calendar here, it's telling me Mercury forms a trine to Uranus. Well, that's great. That's like that's thinking outside the box. Let's say that's the heading of that aspect. So our minds are really stimulated this week when Mercury trines Uranus. Many of us can grasp new concepts, and we're more open than usual to innovative ideas, and intellectual pioneering pays off. There might be some radical inspiration, especially when Mercury moves into its own sign of Virgo on Wednesday. So we might find fresh insight by looking at an old pattern or idea in a new way. Like unorthodox concepts can open our perception and revealing things that we've never even considered before. Like we might look at the same thing but in a whole new way with this influence of Mercury trining Uranus. Yes, it's really very insightful. And so we're just prone to original, brilliant breakthroughs. But just remember though, like being too radical or thinking too far outside of the box can alienate some people. So just keep it real, I guess is one way to say it. On Wednesday, we have the Sun conjuncting Mars, which is part of what's happening with this new moon that we had on Sunday, but this is an exact aspect. So the new moon was, say, 1 degree Leo, and then Mars with the new moon was 3 degrees. Astrologers like to be precise and exact, so on Wednesday, the Sun and Mars are exactly standing next to each other. So this is all about, and they're both in Leo, of course, so this is all about energy, and like there's a cosmic energy surge this week that's pulsing over everybody. And so everybody's like chomping at the bit with this influence of the Sun conjuncting Mars, jumping up early, galloping headlong down the track. It can be reckless and dangerous. It could be, but for many of us, it's just plain exciting. So with awareness, we can utilize this, let's just say, forcefulness by initiating projects. Of course, with the new moon, it's all about initiating new things. So we're courageously taking action and doing things that only we can do. So, of course, be careful that we're not being too reckless. Another shadow influence to Sun conjunct Mars, especially in Leo, be careful about reacting to being bullied or arguing or even forcing your way on everyone else. Assertiveness can quickly turn into aggression, maybe road rage or risk-taking. Just watch the shadow of this influence. But normally it's like fantastic for getting stuff done. There's a lot of excess energy around at this time. Now, moving right along, because we're running out of time, on to your weekly horoscope. So Aries, it's all about a pioneering spirit this week. Find reasons to say yes. For Taurus, there could be some financial tensions within a relationship. So heart-to-heart discussion is needed. For Gemini, face up to unspoken worries in your relationship. And just know that the Venus-Saturn opposition will be over by next week. If you're a Cancer, stretch your intellect this week. Mental challenges will be good for you. If you're a Leo, the Leo new moon promises optimism and courage, but you have to take a step forward. If you're a Virgo, with Mercury moving into your sign, your communication skills get a huge boost, so use them. If you're a Libra, friendships are worth their weight in gold right now, so make the most of your social life. If you're a Scorpio, if either you or your partner has something to hide, then this week it could all burst out into the open. If you're a Sagittarius, you might be at loggerheads with your partner or someone else, but you will be able to figure out what to do with some juggling and creative thinking. If you're a Capricorn, you're in big picture mode right now, and it's a wonderful time for planning ahead, but pay attention to the details. especially as Mercury is moving into Virgo. If you're an Aquarian, the new moon falls in your love zone. So if you're single, a new relationship could be on the cards. If you're already in love, there might be a revival of your romance. And finally, if you're a Pisces, there might be a little bit of a lack of a work-life balance, which might be stressing you out, but something has to give. So there's a lot of energy around with the Sun, Mars conjunction, the new moon in Leo, which will give you the energy to reassess your priorities. And the priorities will be spending more time with those you love and care about. So there you have the overview of the week. Just to recap the headlines of the week, we have a new moon in Leo, which is has the involvement of Mars in Leo. Mercury, communication planet Mercury, moves into Virgo. It's an extra long cycle. It will be there for a really long time. A really long time, meaning through September. Usually it's just a 3-week cycle. Anyway, it's all good. It's all good. We're building up to a month of intensity. August is nearly here. Anyway, I'm your host, Kelly Fox. Thanks for joining me, and tune in for next week's show. Have a great week.